Hello everyone. To start off, I want to announce that I am starting the #ReworkSymmetra movement. More info on how to participate will be near the end of this video. Since I'm attempting to start a movement, it means that I am once again unhappy about the upcoming state of Symmetra. For those who don't know, in the most recent Overwatch 2 beta, Symmetra received the following changes. Photon Projector's ammo went from 70 back to 100. However, the primary fire no longer gains ammo on shields. The secondary fire had its move speed doubled, going from 25 meters a second to 50 meters a second. However, its damage was cut by 25%, going down from 120 per orb to just 90 per orb. Additionally, the ammo cost per fully charged orb was upped from 7 to 10, but this is to compensate for the overall ammo gain. The turret's move speed in the air was upped from 15 meters a second to 20 meters a second, while the slow per individual turret was lowered from 20% to 15%. Lastly, the teleporter got reverted to its initial 3.0 state, with it now having a lifetime of 10 seconds with a cooldown of 12 seconds that starts immediately. Additionally, the teleporter's build time was decreased, going from 2 seconds to 1 second. However, the health of the teleporter was lowered from 300 to 200. So, 4 buffs accompanied by 4 nerfs. Why am I disappointed with this? Let's start with the primary fire. More specifically, the lack of changes for it. The ammo count was reverted to 2.0's 100, which is very nice. Why it was lowered to 70 with the initial 3.0 rework still baffles me. But what baffles me now is the decision to remove the ammo gain from enemy barriers. There's less of them now, yes, but the one niche use this weapon had of countering barriers is gone, without anything special to replace it. I would also like to remind you that the beam being too short range and taking too long to charge were not addressed. Second, the secondary fire. The increased move speed on the orbs is awesome, but the damage nerf cripples any potential this weapon might have had. Symmetra now needs 3 fully charged orbs instead of 2 to kill a 200 HP target now. Additionally, Symm can no longer orb to melee combo 150 HP targets, since they won't die to it with the lower damage. The turrets felt as useless as ever. The increase in flight speed is nice, I guess. I barely noticed it. But the reduction on the turret's slow confuses me. This beta introduced Junker Queen, who is another character who can gain bonus move speed. Yet, in the same patch, we're nerfing one of the few slows in the game. The teleporter felt a lot better in this beta. When you're not having placement issues, it's a lot more fluid and responsive with the cooldown and build time changes. Overall, this version of Symmetra feels like Release 3.0, just with less damage. Since 2018, Symm's damage has been lowered everywhere. Primary was lowered, turrets were lowered, and recently with the beta, the orbs were lowered. Symmetra in this beta faced the same issues that Live Symmetra does. She's a damage character who struggles to deal damage. These changes were in fact, not meaty. Now we're going to cover a few of my reasons for starting the #ReworkSymmetra movement. First, a brief history lesson on the issues this character has faced since launch. Release Symmetra, or Symmetra 1.0, was the worst character in this game. Because of that, as of September 2016, Symmetra was the least played hero in Overwatch. With such low numbers, changes for the hero were inevitable. The date is December 13th, 2016, and Symmetra is the first hero to get reworked in Overwatch. Her new ability, Photon Barrier, allowed Symm to safely close the gap on her enemies, and her new ultimate, the Shield Generator, granted Symm's team 75 bonus shield health. While Symmetra 2.0 was my favorite version of the hero, and a drastic step up over her predecessor, the rework failed to address some core issues. That being, the range on the Photon Projector primary fire was lacking, and the super slow secondary didn't make up for it. Additionally, the turrets had to be placed on nearby surfaces, which meant the ability was a struggle to use on attack. Still, the basis of a great hero was there. All Symmetra needed was a few quality of life buffs to be viable. Instead of that, Symmetra 2.0 went over a year without a single balance change! Come June 26, 2018, and Symmetra's second rework is thrust upon us. The auto-lock primary was replaced with a beam akin to Zarya. The piercing orbs were replaced with faster moving orbs that explode in a small AoE. The turret count was cut in half, but you could now throw them, which was a huge quality of life buff. The Photon Barrier ability was replaced with the current teleporter, and Symm's 2 ultimates were booted and replaced with the Photon Barrier ultimate. While I did enjoy this version of Symmetra initially, she still hosted major issues. even more so with her being placed in the damage class. Her auto-lock weapon was gone, but for some reason the dev team opted to keep the charge time mechanic that was made with auto-lock in mind. They also decided to make the ramp up take longer on top of that. Additionally, the new discount Zarya beam was shorter than Zarya's particle cannon, making it difficult to engage fights. The secondary orbs, while faster, were still too slow when compared to other projectile heroes like Pharah and Hanzo. The teleporter was incredibly janky on release, and many teammates refused to take it. However, with coordinated teams, the teleporter offered the ability to bypass chokes and great snowball potential. The photon barrier, while great, felt unfitting for the damage class. So, why did I give you a history lesson on the character? Well, I've clocked over 355 hours on Symmetra since her first version, and it pains me to see how mistreated she was, and still is, by the devs. The 3.0 rework was very drastic, and not made with her original player base in mind. Just look at the recent hero reworks for Overwatch 2 to compare. Orisa has essentially the same primary fire and retains the Fortify ability. Doomfist only had one ability changed, Bastion still has his iconic Sentry mode, and some could argue a modified version of his old primary, and then Sombra, who hosts the same kit, just with numbers changes. All of these hero reworks were made with their original player bases in mind, not Symmetra's. All Symmetra 3.0 has in common with her previous versions is the turrets. Everything else was trashed. And with regards to 3.0, it feels like the devs were constantly hesitant to give her meaningful changes. In my opinion, this is due to the potential strength of the teleporter. In theory, good teams with the teleporter can constantly be repositioning and taking aggressive angles. I believe the devs feared that Symmetra would be too good if they gave her easier to confirm damage on top of the potential of her teleporter. Just look at the initial double shield meta for proof. After Sigma's release, the double shield meta rose to power, and Symmetra finally saw some regular use now that barriers were prevalent. Her pick rate peaked around 3% at this time. Not even a week after, and the devs gut Symmetra's primary fire for being good at countering barriers, by lowering the width and the damage of it. But just in case, they nerfed her turret damage as well. All this comboed with the questionable teleporter changes prior, left this hero feeling even more lacking. One buff idea a lot of Symmetra players wanted to see as compensation was Symmetra's beam range being changed to 16 meters to match Zarya. Well, we got that exact change, as an April Fool's joke. During the April Fool's experimental card, all the characters got wacky, outlandish changes like Sigma being able to fly around. Well, according to the devs, Symmetra having a primary fire range of 16 meters is a joke. A slap in the face to the Symmetra community. Fast forward a bit to an Overwatch AMA on Reddit, where the devs mentioned the idea of Symmetra moving back into the support class multiple times. Everyone assumed that the next Symmetra rework was imminent. Enter the first Overwatch 2 beta. Symmetra received 0 changes, but was talked about in a developer post. We agree with community feedback that the reduction of shields being thrown about the battlefield makes Symmetra's photon projector harder to get value from. At the same time, Symmetra is suffering from increased overlap with heroes like Mei, who possesses better tools for close-quarter survivability. While these heroes aren't our current focus, they are on the radar for future adjustments and continued monitoring. Okay, this statement gave us a bit of hope for the next beta. When it arrived, Symmetra got nada in regards to her primary fire. Instead, Symmetra 3.0 had a slew of additional nerfs for the second Overwatch 2 beta. On top of the changes I talked about earlier, Symmetra's teleporter cooldown was originally 16 seconds. Her orbs were also made smaller, going from 0.5 meters to 0.4 meters, and their charge time went up from 1 second to 1.2 seconds. These changes were removed, but it goes to show you how much the dev team tries to hold back Symmetra in regards to balance. This is what the Overwatch devs had to say about that in the most recent blog post. Our reasoning for some of the other nerfs was that Symmetra is already a statistically strong hero, and we feared these changes alone would push her over the edge. Statistically strong hero? Symmetra's the 5th least played hero with a less than 1% pick rate. Oftentimes, in the highest level of play, the Overwatch League, Symmetra is picked for upwards of 30 seconds just for her teleporter, and then swapped off immediately.
Guangzhou like to pick their engagements, so if we see something similar from London, Maybe it'll give Guangzhou the end that they're looking for. Now,
They're not going to run the Symmetra, surely.
No.
That's just to get people up on the high ground. And Glista goes over to the...
How is that a statistically strong hero? With 3.0, it feels like the hero has been balanced by people who have never played Symmetra. It seems like they're still trying to hold her back due to fear of the teleporter. 3.0's main playstyle revolves around using the teleporter for your team, and then spamming orbs until the right moment comes to use your primary fire. That's not very fun. I know some Symmetra mains get all riled up when these words are spoken, but it's time to rework Symmetra. The devs have proven that they are incapable of making Symm 3.0 a viable pick. Also, it doesn't make sense for them to even try. With Overwatch 2 going 5v5, there is less emphasis on team play, and now individual playmaking is stressed instead. This is most notable with the tanks in Overwatch 2 being centered around grabbing attention and making space, as opposed to pure protection. But, just for an example more close to home, Sombra, the other utility-based damage hero, is getting some nice selfish buffs. The hack no longer silences enemies for 5 seconds, now it only does so for 1 second. Since the team play utility is gone, Sombra's playmaking opportunity arises in the form of her gaining bonus damage against hacked targets. Symmetra, on the other hand, still retains her taxi service teleporter, and her weapon still feels very weak because of it. I would like to remind you that Symmetra is a damage character. Damage characters should excel at dealing damage, not tickling people with Winston levels of damage for over a second while your gun ramps up. Other characters do not have to wait for almost 3 seconds for their gun to be potent. Now that finally brings me to the #ReworkSymmetra movement. I am calling upon all Symmetra mains, current and former, and any supporters to take to Twitter. I've made some posters you can use to support the cause, but really, just post whatever you want. A rework concept, fan art, disappointing, or even cool clips. Just make sure to put #ReworkSymmetra in your posts. You'll also want to tag @Overwatch, and feel free to tag me as well, @YellowNinja. Hopefully with enough noise, we can get the devs' attention, because this could potentially be Symmetra's last chance to get reworked. If you don't want to be a taxi bot in Overwatch 2, I highly suggest you participate. As always, please keep your posts respectful. The goal is to gain sympathy, not mockery. Additionally, I will be making a post on the Overwatch forums, which will pretty much be this video in essay form. Link to that will be in the description/pinned comment when it's ready. The Overwatch forums have rules against raiding, so I ask that you do not create any new threads, and instead keep all conversation as replies to my thread. And that's that! I'm going to be posting my one last Symmetra rework concept shortly, so keep an eye out for that. I've come to realize that Symmetra is one of the few characters that I really love from Overwatch. Despite constantly performing poorly, I just love her character. She's the first character I decided to truly main in a video game, she's the first character I've animated in SFM, she's the character that gave me small tastes of hope in regards to my YouTube channel. That's the reason I still keep her in my intro and outro despite not having played Overwatch in some time. Ultimately what I'm trying to say is, I love this character, and would love for her to be something amazing gameplay-wise. After all, we're all meant for greatness. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you all can join me for the #ReworkSymmetra movement, starting right now. Peace.